I was online looking at requirements for the FBI, for the Secret Service, all these things. So I looked, and at the time, this would have been 2004 and 5 time frame when I was at William Carey. A lot of those federal agencies, everybody wants to be, every kid, wants to be the FBI agent or something. Those agencies were recruiting accounting majors.
Accounting?
Yeah, apparently there's a lot of financial fraud type crime.
There is. We know that.
This is true.
Sure. So
now it fits in.
Yeah. So they were recruiting. I said, I took a couple of undergraduate accounting courses while I was at Jones and did okay there. So I said, I can major in accounting and do that and go work for one of these agencies. So I signed up for the upper level accounting courses, and in about 3 weeks, I realized that accounting was not for me.
All right, well, good morning. Welcome back to Check In with Century. This is episode 2 of our podcast. I'm here with Janet. And so we have a special guest today. Elliot Burch is our special guest. He is a local attorney and our local state representative for our district here and in Greene County also. Tell us where it is, Greene?
Yeah, the district is District 105. Mm-hmm. It covers all of Perry County except for one voting precinct, all of Greene County except for one voting precinct, and 2 voting precincts here in George County.
Right. That's me. I'm in that voting precinct. Sure. So you got my vote. Yeah. All right. Well, this morning we wanted to have a little conversation about education and trade schools, just the difference of how that works in our world today and how that affects our workforce and going forward. So Elliot has a great story. We've known each other, just to give a little backstory, Janet, Elliot and I've known each other for about 15 years,
yeah,
I think
so.
About that long. Yeah. And so he has a great story, a professional story. So I thought that would be real interesting to have him on. Not only is he an attorney, a politician, but before that, he was an undercover drug enforcement agent. Did I get that right?
That's right.
That's
right. I
right.
can't wait to hear the story.
So yes, I think it's interesting. I always love for him
know.
to tell that. Of course, he'll kind of condense it down and maybe not give so many raw details. I don't know. We're gonna see what he's gonna say today.
I want to hear it all.
So, but so college versus college. So Elliot has actually went to college 2 times, 2 separate times. You've gotten 2 different degrees, right?
That's
throughout
right.
your professional
That's
career.
Right. Yep.
And so I know whenever I was getting ready to graduate high school and trying to figure out what I was going to do, my sister was going to nursing school at that time, and my parents just knew that I was going to go to nursing school, and I absolutely was not going to nursing school. Elliot's wife is an RN; she's a nurse.
That thought you, or was it just because your sister went?
My sister was going.
Were you that caretaker kind of person?
Yeah, well, I am to a certain extent to my people, my circle. I can do that, but I just wasn't a fan of, being a caretaker to anybody and everybody. I feel like it's a special calling. I feel like you have to have a special calling for that.
I have friends that are RNs, and I'm like, wow.
Yeah, and Brittany, Elliot's wife, is, and she's actually taken care of my mom a couple of times in the hospital, and she's phenomenal. But so I was just trying to figure out, I was like, okay, what am I going to do? Because, my dad, you had to have a plan. You had to do something.
Yes.
Had to have a plan.
Mine too.
And so actually one of our church members at that time, Ellie, I don't even know if you know this, but he actually was on the board of the bank at that time. And he asked me at church one day, did I think that I wanted to get a job at the bank? Well, I was 19 years old. I didn't really know if I wanted to get a job at the bank. And so all these years later, here I am working at the bank.
Still here.
Yeah. So it was kind of like my niche. I really liked it. So it was just, trying to figure out at 18 years old what I wanted to do, being influenced by my parents, not because they were pushy, but because they just wanted to know that we were going to be able to make a living for ourselves, that we were going to be able to support ourselves. They wanted us to be able to better ourselves. That was their whole point.
Self-sufficient.
Yeah.
That you could take care of yourself.
So how did that work for you? Did you...
Well, yes, same for me. My dad owned his own business, so he was definitely wanting me to be that independent person as well. So yeah, I always liked math and things like that, finance. So he thought I was really good with money. He got me a credit card. Back then, I could be an authorized user at 16. You could do that. So
Oh, wow.
yes.
We might have to cut that
I
part.
know,
We don't want our
right?
customers to
That
know
was
they can be
back
an
in the
authorized user.
day. So he did teach me those things, how to use credit card, how to pay for things, and I really liked it. And next thing you know, he wanted me to be an accountant and go into accounting. And I took accounting classes at South, and that just was not. I don't know. I just didn't like it. Was different, and then I kept looking at banking. I don't know why I knew my calling, but I did. And 41 years later,
Well, how about
I
that?
know. I guess it was my calling.
Well,
So I really do.
it is. It is your niche. You're really great at
And I
it.
really have worked at all areas of the bank, which is really, it just, we have so many different areas of banking that
We do.
you don't have to be a teller. You don't have to be a lender. There's so many different, and I really tried to hit them all. So,
Yeah, you've actually worked in a lot of different departments.
I have.
So, Elliot, when we were trying to kind of put this episode together and come up with a topic, we were talking about college and how we have a variety of employees here who have degrees. We hire young people out of high school that don't have a degree. We have people that are working part time that are putting themselves through college.
Right.
And so we kind of wanted to talk about the importance of that in the workforce. So, of course, you're at the top of my list for many reasons, but because I think that your professional story is so unique, and I mean, I think it could be a great inspiration to young people who are trying to figure out what they want to do, and people who were in your situation that went into one career and then decided that they wanted to go into a different direction.
Right.
So I kind of wanted
That
you to
is-
share your story this morning.
Sure.
I've been
That is
telling Janet
interesting,
a little
yeah.
bit about it, so she's been really excited to hear about it.
Okay, sure, that'd be
Yes.
great. I really appreciate Jill, Janet, you guys having me here today, and I'd be glad to talk about that. I guess my story starts where most do, with their family or with people they look up to. Mine were my parents. Obviously, we were come from a real small, close knit family. My mom and dad chose to homeschool my brother and I up through eighth grade. So my mom taught us. My dad worked in engineering. So we did that. College was always one of those things as we got older that was talked about. And I won't say my parents were demanding of it, but you knew it was expected. You knew that there was some education beyond high school that they were expecting you to do. And for us, we were very fortunate, my brother and I, that our parents were very supportive. They were going to help us do that.
What you needed to do.
No matter what, they were going to support us to do that because they thought it was important. Both of them have college degrees, and they thought that was important. Fortunately, as we moved into high school, my brother and I both played sports, and I was fortunate for most of my undergraduate college to be paid for with baseball or athletic scholarships. So
Okay.
That's nice.
So you went on scholarship.
I did. I went to Jones. It was Jones County Junior College at the time. Now it's Jones College. I played a couple of years of baseball there, and then I transferred to William Carey in Hattiesburg and played baseball there. That's where I started trying to decide what I'm going to do. Everybody's asking you from the time that you're in elementary school, what do you want to do when you grow up? And in my mind, since I'd been in high school, I wanted to be a police officer. That was the idea. Even in going to college and picking out degree requirements, I was online looking at requirements for the FBI, for the Secret
gosh.
Service, all
I
these
know.
things. So I looked, and at the time, this would have been 2004 and 5 time frame when I was at William Carey. A lot of those federal agencies, everybody wants to be, every kid, wants to be the FBI agent or something. Those agencies were recruiting accounting majors.
Accounting.
Yeah, they
Wow.
apparently there's a lot of financial fraud type crime that
There
that
is.
they-
We know that.
This is
don't we?
true.
This is
Sure. So
Now it fits in.
yeah, so they were recruiting. I said, I took a couple of undergraduate accounting courses while I was at Jones and did okay there. So I said, I can major in accounting and do that and go work for one of these agencies. So I signed up for the upper level accounting courses, and in about 3 weeks, I realized that accounting was not for me.
I
It
can
was
see that.
very difficult for me to get the good understanding of it. But I changed my major over to finance and economics, which was
Yes.
associated field that those agencies would still recruit people from. And then I graduated with had applied to lots of agencies. They weren't, I guess, looking for me. But I took a job at the George County Sheriff's Office here in
Okay.
Lucedale.
So what year was that? Who was the sheriff then?
That would have been in 2007. Gary Welford
Mr.
was the
Gary.
sheriff.
Okay.
And I tell people all the time, for my first boss out of college, he took a chance on somebody just with a college degree, but that didn't really know anything about law enforcement. I had read books and, written papers in college and things, but I really didn't know anything, especially about, small town law enforcement. But they took a chance on me, and thankfully they did and supported me, every step of the way. Transitioning from there, I went to work for the Mississippi Bureau of Narcotics. I did work some undercover, but there's also other just investigative work that you do. It's not all trying to pretend you're somebody else.
Yeah.
But I did that for, I guess, 5.5 years or so.
That's a long time.
During that time, my wife gives me a hard time because she tells me that I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up.
She really
So
does.
I would talk about different
And
things.
did you really know at that time?
No, I really didn't. I talked to a few people who did different types of jobs when I was getting out of my undergrad, because I wanted to use those contacts as references for jobs and
yes.
things. And one of those, who I'm still close with today, mentioned, "Have you ever thought about going to law school?" And I certainly blew that off. No, I want to go be a police officer. That is what I want to do. That's my life story.
So what do you think? What do you think got him to ask you about law school?
That's the type of work that he does.
Okay.
And I just think it was one of those. I think he probably saw that I wasn't really sure, about
you
where
wanted
this
to
was
go.
going. So he just mentioned it, but it was no pressure or anything
Right.
of that nature. So it was. Looking back on it now, certainly it's important, to think about it now. But I did that law enforcement work total for about 7.5 years before I went back to law school. But it's kind of there's a lot that goes into that 7.5 years, because there's getting married, having children, and I applied to law school while I was working at Mississippi Bureau of Narcotics. Started looking at different law schools to go to. I certainly wanted to go to one that was close to home. I didn't plan to move anywhere. And in Mississippi, there are only two. There's Mississippi College Law School in Jackson and Ole Miss in Oxford. So I took the test, the LSAT, applied to those schools. And at that point is when I started calculating the cost. I already put all this,
Oh, I can only imagine.
So I saw that, and that was going to be difficult. My wife, she's a nurse. She had a good job. She worked a lot, but we had 2 children.
You had 2 at that time?
Well, we had 1 at the time. So decided that's not, maybe we're not where we need to be to get there. So decided not to go to law school. Kept working. And actually, at that point, took a job at the district attorney's office as an investigator at the district attorney's office. So did that job, but continued to want to go to law school. That was still a plan. So got down to where really felt like, we have 2 children now. It's not getting any easier to go, but we saved up money during that time, tried to get as prepared as we could to do it. And I can remember talking to my wife about, do we think we should do this? And she looked at me and she said, "If you're going to do it, you need to do it now
Get going.
and quit talking about it." So that was basically it. So, we decided at that point, hey, we're going to do it. She was super supportive of it, was going to continue to work and do that while I went. I submitted my application. This is the interesting part. I submitted the same exact applications that I'd submitted basically 2 years prior, the same recommendation letters, didn't really update anything, and come back and got accepted to the same two schools, except Mississippi College Law School offered me a scholarship, pretty substantial scholarship. So that was one of those things where you feel like, sometimes you feel like things are meant to be, and it's where you need to be.
Everything falls into place.
That was really a reassurance to me, that, this is what we need to do and where we need to go, because it wasn't like we really tried to get some scholarships. We submitted the same application that didn't get us any scholarships 2 years ago. And then now, some turn of events, something's happened.
So it was just like a confirmation that you knew it was the right time.
It was.
Even though there were so many other things that you had to make fall into place.
It was very difficult because I, left a job that was a good job, good pay, good benefits, a state job that had retirement insurance, all this stuff. Left that, at the time thinking about for 3 years.
Wow.
Because that's the typical law school track is 3 years. And then all that law school really just makes you eligible to take the bar exam. You still have to take and pass the bar to be a licensed attorney, but you can't take the bar without going to the 3 years of law school.
Oh, my goodness.
So there's a lot on the line, but that's very motivating, especially when you have a wife and 2 children at home expecting you to do it. And that, for me, that was, I was motivated to do it anyway, but thinking about that, especially looking back on it now, it seems like a huge risk. I feel like I don't know if I would take that risk today. But at the time, certainly I'm fortunate that I did. Things were very good. I actually completed law school in 2.5 years, took the bar exam a semester early.
He's always an overachiever. Did you get that part,
I was
Janet?
actually thinking that. You don't hear a lot of stories like that.
I know.
And then you during that time we had 2 children, and then my wife was pregnant with our third during the time that I was studying for the bar exam. That's about a 2 or 3 month process of just kind of every day, 6, 7, 8 hours a day studying for that exam, because it's the make or break. If you don't pass the bar exam, you're not going to be a licensed attorney, and certainly there are jobs that you can get, but in that field, there's a big difference between being a licensed attorney and somebody with a law degree.
And what you've worked for,
for sure.
So let me ask you this question. You just answer as vague or as much detail as you want. So when you and Brittany were deciding that you would, it's now or never, it was the time.
Right.
So financially, how did that play into that? Like saving, and like you said, you left a job that had great benefits for retirement and things like that. And so how did you financially set a plan for that 3-year period of time?
Well, fortunately, there's some costs that are fixed, tuition and things of that nature. If you're going to have an apartment, you can kind of know what that is if you're going to sign a lease. So we ran the numbers. We knew how much money we had saved. We knew that it still was not going to be easy. There are lots of, you could get student loans, parents could help, you can work part-time, and we did some of that. I worked some part-time as I could, but it was not enough to be really substantial, but it was, had to be done because every little bit counts. Brittany, she worked a lot. Fortunately for us, where we live is close to Brittany's parents, it's close to my parents, and they both were just unbelievably supportive the entire time. We couldn't have done it, had we lived really in another community other than this one that we live in here.
With family.
It wouldn't be, we wouldn't have been able to do it really.
Right. And so you commuted to Jackson. So Brittany and the kids, they didn't commute. She stayed here.
That's right. She stayed here, and I would stay up there during the week. But I came home every weekend. Most of the class schedules were Monday through Thursday, so I didn't stay a weekend in Jackson. I also, during the week when I was in Jackson, I was at the school at least 8 hours a day. Most of the time longer than that, because there really wasn't anything for me to do other than study.
Right.
It was just study. And fortunately for me, it may not have been wise at the time, but there's not a weekend during law school that I came home where I had to study. I took that time to spend time with the kids
Family
and family, and I dedicated myself during the week to spending enough time studying that I wouldn't have to do that on the weekends.
Well,
You're very disciplined, right?
Yeah, very disciplined.
On some things,
know.
some things I should do better.
That's
but-
awesome. I mean, you have to be disciplined to do what you did with the wife and
Yeah.
children and the profession that you were going into. That's a lot.
Certainly, discipline is important. I tell you though, the people supporting me around it, as disciplined as I could have been without them being supportive and really buying into it wouldn't have happened.
They say it takes a village.
It
does.
It does for sure.
So taking that path, looking back now, then moving forward. So now y'all have 4 children.
We do, yes.
So going forward, paying for college, saving for college, like, did that change yours and Brittany's perspective about how you're going to make that happen for the children? The way that you had to rearrange your lifestyle, your schedule to make that work for y'all so that you could go back and get that degree?
So our perspective with our kids, I feel like has really been the same as it was for me. Like I say, college for me, I knew from talking to my parents that it was expected. Now they weren't going to force me to do it, but I understood their expectations, and I want my kids to understand that my expectations are for them to be self-supporting, members of society that contribute to the economy, contribute to their families. Whether that's a college degree or not doesn't really matter to me, because I have a couple of college degrees, and there are other things that I wish I could do. I wish I could weld and fabricate my own, things for my shop, and I wish that I didn't have to, struggle through YouTube videos to try to fix things around the house. And there are a lot of necessary things that get done for people without a college degree.
Well, there are. I'm glad you said that. So
I
we
do too.
actually have a mutual
Yes.
friend that is the dean of a college campus in Greene County he runs the trade school.
Right.
So, and that's so important. If we don't have
totally agree.
people that are still going to trade school, we can't get our car fixed.
gonna fix
we
my
can't
car?
get our air conditioner fixed.
Right.
You can't get your shop built.
Right.
So that's important to me. Like I also wanted to touch on that just a little bit about the importance of people who are choosing to go to trade school and not to 4-year college and not to be a nurse and not to be a lawyer, and how important that is. Now, cost wise, for somebody who is having to be very frugal or having to be very conscious of the cost of college, that would be a way to go for them if they were interested in that.
Sure.
But so you do really have a strong opinion about that is definitely an important part of being an adult, growing up, going into the workforce, not just going to college because it's expected or it's the thing to do.
I think if we're not careful, we put too much emphasis on college education as being the main priority that's going to get you the job that you need to have, where you can support your family. Has it been good for me? Yes, it's been great for me, and the work that I do, it's necessary. But there are so many things that are in demand right now. If you try to find someone to come work on, whether it's your air conditioning system at your house, whether it's your plumbing system at your house, if you have a garage door issue at your house, you struggle. You have to get on a list. There's a waiting list for those things.
Oh, mine's an open carport. I'm glad I don't have a garage door.
Well, just to get somebody to work on those items, you're not going to be able to call them today and them come out this afternoon,
Right.
Because
There's not enough of them.
it is. That's true. And everybody, I hear all the talk from people about artificial intelligence. It's taking over. All these jobs are going to go missing. It's going to take over people's employment. There's going to be massive people. Well, who's going to create the batteries that carry these AI robots around? Who's going to transport those to wherever they're going? There are so many industries that are trade-related industries, especially in our area, that are so important to the overall economy. I feel like we really need to encourage people, or at least let people know there are other options. For years, I feel like it's been, you have to go to college to be successful. And that is 100% not the case from my
And we're
perspective.
finding that out more and more.
I
like
think
you
so
said,
too, yeah.
With the lack of those type, I mean, what would we do without contractors? And
For sure.
I mean, they build homes and businesses and buildings, and so
That's right.
we
It's
got-
definitely, you definitely got to have a good mixture. And it's also knowing what's right for you, knowing
right.
who you are as a person,
right.
what's going to fit you best. Like you said, you were disciplined and you got all the studying in so that when you came home on the weekend, you were father first.
Right.
And then you were back to law school on Monday. So a lot of that is just finding out
right.
what your niche is, where you need to be in life, what you want to do. And that's hard for 18, 19, 20-year-olds too. But just being educated and knowing that they have the option. There are more options.
Right.
And we hire, here, Janet, we hire people out of high
Right.
school. We have young tellers, and they aspire to be other things in the bank. And it's, if they can
That's
work
right.
hard and be dedicated and do a good job, you can move up in a corporation or a company.
I hired, I'm very proud of, she was 18 and did not want to go to college, same thing. And she just did so well as a teller and moved up. And now she's like over 2 states
Right.
with a bank. So,
Wow.
yeah,
She's managing that many branches?
she had, well, not managing, but she does payroll.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Yeah, she does very well. So, it's just about knowing what you want to do, following that path,
Right.
and listening to the, people that can help you.
That's right.
Because we all need help
Sure.
and guidance along the way. But if you're determined,
Right.
I think you can do that. And
I think it's really good for the younger generation, the younger people, to be educated on what they want to do, just so they're not, college is expensive, whether it's
Yes.
in state or out of state. We've looked at those numbers. And if it's not something that is going to serve you and that you want to go forward with, that's a lot of money to be spending. Whether it's your parents' money, whether
true,
it's
yeah.
a grant or a scholarship that you got, it's just a lot to be conscious about. So,
well, it's not for everybody,
right. So
you said.
moving on in your story, let's talk about how you decided to go into politics. How
Okay.
did you decide that you wanted to, from being an attorney, move into politics also?
My wife would say it's one of those things I just don't know what I want to do when I
Yeah.
grow up. But
I have heard her say that a couple times.
Have you?
Yeah.
the thought behind that was, and it's been years ago now, when we discussed it as a family, or my wife and I, about wanting to do something in the community in some type of position that represents others. I do that through my work now a lot. I represent other people, individuals,
right.
businesses, and I really feel like the area where I grew up, George, Greene County, and my district goes into Perry County now, which is very similar to Greene County, which I grew up in. I really don't want to be anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
I really think it's the greatest place you could live. I don't think there's a better place to live. I don't want to move anywhere. Yeah, I want to go visit
awesome.
places. So to me, representing the area that I have such high esteem for is really, to me, a very fortunate to be able to do that. It's something that I wanted to do for years, and to have the opportunity to do it, and for people to vote for me is really a humbling
That's nice.
experience, for sure. So it's something that we had talked about. It's something that I'd wanted to do for several years. Even when I was in law enforcement, I felt like, wow, this would be very interesting to be able to get into the side of things where you can shape things that are happening statewide. But one of the things that I've learned from it is that, yes, I represent a large group, about 25,000 people. But in politics, your local governing officials really are the ones that need your input. I need people's input. I wish people were more engaged, but in your local communities, you can really affect a lot of positive change if you get involved. And that was, for me, that was kind of the thing. Just let's get involved.
Yeah.
Win or lose, let's get involved and try to keep things going in a positive direction.
Yeah.
So,
All right, so speak on this a little bit. So when you got out of law school, passed the bar, you went to work in the DA's office as a prosecutor.
That's right.
However, now you're in private practice and you're doing defense work.
That's right.
So you went from one side to the other side. So talk about that a little bit, like how that affects you, how you view people, at the background that they come from. How does that affect you? To begin with, you were trying to prosecute them, and now you're trying to defend them.
well, my work has certainly changed the way I view people. Their how they interact with other members of the community and things. I feel like we all feel like we've always tried to treat people the right way and be open-minded about their situations. But it's not always been the case. I've not always done as good a job as I could have. In law enforcement, you get this idea that you do things so much, you see the bad part of society so much that you feel like it's just infiltrated everything, and it hasn't. It's a very small percentage of the population that you're dealing with, and they have some very significant issues in their life. Most of them made some bad decisions. There are many factors, but it's decisions that people make, and there's certainly personal responsibility there. But in law enforcement, and then prosecution, you get the same way. Every file that comes in front of you is where somebody has committed a crime or likely committed a crime, and you get to a point where you really get maybe jaded. Is a little bit the word for it. You kind of feel like, man, things are just bad. Our communities, have problems. And I try to be positive. I try to be positive about everything I can. I think there's always a silver lining. If you look for it, you can find it. And then I got into the defense world, totally different. I'd always been in law enforcement, a prosecutor, kind of on that side of things, where I was, working to solve crimes, to make sure people were punished, to make sure society was safe. And then people would question me, well, how are you doing this other now? And then, the more you look, especially if you look at the way our country was founded, the defense of a person is really integral to our entire system that we live in, that people need to have representation. If they're going to be convicted of a crime and deprived of their liberty and freedom, that needs to be a really high standard. It shouldn't, right. Government is very powerful. So that's what the person's standing up against. It's the government who brings the charges against people. So they need a good, strong defense. But when I got to know people personally, even people that had made terrible mistakes and done things that they shouldn't done, you find out that a lot of it's from, some of it's from things they couldn't help, the way they were brought up. I'm really fortunate to have been brought up in, a home that was compared to what, many that I see now, just incredible. I mean, I couldn't be more fortunate the way I was brought up, and the leadership and guidance that I had coming up. A lot of people don't have that.
That's right.
And you start seeing that. I think it makes you a little more sympathetic to people. And you also get to help some people. I mean, you get to get some people, especially in the society as it is today. Addiction is really tough for people. As their defense attorney, in conjunction with defending them from maybe a crime, you can a lot of times help those people get treatment and things of that nature. So it's really kind of given me a better perspective on people, and not to be maybe as harsh as I was at one time.
Were on the other side.
Yeah, and I never treated people poorly, I don't think.
Sure.
And I've had people come up to me and tell me, hey, when you arrested me, that's the best thing that ever happened to me. I was at a terrible point in my life, and I've made a great change. So you hear great stories all around it. I just think, we certainly need to be careful to know that, these are people. Now, there are consequences for actions, and people need to be held accountable for their actions. But it has, seeing the system from the perspective from all sides, it does give you a better view of what's going on, and hopefully how to treat people.
Yeah.
But you with his representative, and then you're also representing people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. It's you, who you are.
Yeah, it does, and
So-
it's a lot of fun. My job's a lot of fun. I'm thankful to enjoy going to work every day.
Yeah.
It's I really enjoy it. I think it was meant for me to do this. I think that things worked out. I mean, I think my background, my career in law enforcement, I see every day how it helps me in my job now. So I don't think that it was a mistake for me to be a police officer.
Yeah.
I just think it's all been one big plan for me. I feel like it's God's plan for my life, and it's been.
So
I've
it
just
was
been really
it
fortunate.
was your childhood dream to be a police officer. You realized that came true.
Sure.
And then you just took the next step and moved forward, and all those things fell in place for you. So
I've kind of come to the conclusion that this is how it's going to work. I tell people I want to model my life after Andy Griffith. He started out as a sheriff in Mayberry.
Yeah.
He became Matlock, the attorney. I started out in law
That's
enforcement.
right.
So the end of my career, I think, will be singing country and gospel music. Because that's how.
well,
he
that's
kinda-
one talent I haven't heard from
I
you.
haven't gotten there yet, but I'm
Okay.
gonna.
All right.
learn.
Well,
So
He's working on that.
We'll work on that. I have a connection. We'll work on that.
That sounds good.
Well, listen, let's wrap back around really quick because, we are a bank, and so we always have to talk about finances.
Right.
So let's wrap back around to saving for college
Right.
or not saving for college. What does that look like for you? 4 kids.
Right.
What are their ages?
My little girl's 4, and then 7, and then 11 and 13.
Yeah. So in reality, that's at the forefront of your mind. You're already thinking and planning on that.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah, thinking and planning on that. Telling my oldest, my 13-year-old, saying, "Honey, you need to get some scholarships." But
And she most definitely can.
we're very fortunate. Our kids, they're very smart. They're like their mom.
And they're talented.
Yeah, that's right.
Talented.
They are
Wow.
talented.
But it is important, you start seeing how quickly time passes, and you don't have a lot of time to save, and college is so expensive. And that's what we've stressed or tried to stress, at least to our 2 oldest, that if you want to go to college, we're going to do our best to support you in doing that. You need to work hard, but we also tell them, hey, you may have to work some while you're in college.
Right.
This is not one of those things where everything's going to just be handed to you. There's going to be some, you're going to have some input in it and do that. But I think it's important for us to try to be prepared to help them as much as we can when they decide whether or not they want to go that route or not. We want to be available to them, but certainly we're not demanding that they go to college. We just want to make sure that they're going to be the productive members of society, whatever that takes.
Yeah. So. And also you're instilling in them the work ethic to make it happen and for them to be successful on their own.
That's right.
So that's a great thing too. All right, well, let's touch on this just a little bit. So when we were talking a little bit in prep time, just a few employees, we were talking about different options, different routes that kids who don't have supportive parents or don't have parents who have the means to help support them to go to college, sometimes that might be an athlete or whatever. So, there's a lot of talk and a lot of attention on the NIL these days, which I don't really know a whole lot about. So what do you think about that, about these kids who are talented athletically being able to use that as a means of income to support themselves through college or while they're in college, or basically to fund themselves by using their name and their image and their talent?
Right. So I've not looked into it a great deal. I understand the basics behind it, and I have mixed feelings on it. I think that somebody who's talented and can, do things that other people can't do, well, certainly that's the whole point of the economy. It rewards people that provide value. So if these people can provide, using their name, their image, their likeness, value to some company that wants to provide them money, well, it's hard for me to say that they shouldn't have that athlete shouldn't have that opportunity. Then you get into the real issue of it is these schools creating these entities to pay players to come there because it's going to be beneficial to the school.
Right, right.
So those are, I feel like it's two different things for me. If there's some company who wants a person to advertise for them, certainly I think that's probably a good thing. We've got to do a good job though in educating people of all ages about financial management.
That's
though.
right.
Because it could
Yes.
easily go from, I was not an athlete who was going to have anybody handing me any money to advertise for them. But had I been, even though I was raised very responsibly and felt like I understood things, if you had given me $100,000, I'm not sure I would have made the best decisions at 18.
You're not sure that
Right.
you truly would have used it to pay for college.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
And that's a concern,
That
for
is.
that kind of money to be going out, to these young people who are, just wanting to really capitalize on
Right.
who they are and what their talent is. And
And
that
at
kind of thing.
18, are they really
At
thinking
18,
about
yeah, it
the
is.
right?
So let's talk a little bit about banking and services that we offer. So you said, you were on the road that 3 years traveling,
Right.
and not really at home during the week and that kind of thing. And so did you find that online banking options and that type of thing, were you already versed in that before you were not, I guess, local and convenient to a brick and mortar branch? Did you find that online account access, online banking, that kind of thing became more useful to you at that time?
Yeah, it did. And at that point, online banking was, pretty, pop, lots of, people were using it. It was because I went to law school 2014 through 2016. So that was important. I'm really, or we're really structured. So it was, that week I would spend in Jackson, things were pretty mapped out about, I wasn't out, buying a lot of groceries and doing a lot of things. That stuff was there at my apartment, so we pretty well had an idea of how much each week was going to cost.
Yeah.
So, and Brittany, took care of the, making sure
Everything
that the
else.
bills were paid back home and things of
Right.
that nature. So,
Right.
certainly it was helpful to, because I'm in Jackson, I'm only going to be there for 2 years. I'm not going to go open up some new account at a bank here in Jackson for being here 3 or 4 days a week for just a couple of years. So it was important, certainly.
Good.
So online banking came in handy.
I know it did. So just speak to this a little bit, and I'm putting you on the spot here because I
Okay.
didn't prepare you for this question. Just speak a little bit about what type of advice would you give somebody in yours and Brittany's situation? Like, you were already married, already had your family started, already in a career, both of you, and then you choose to go back and get a different degree. Just speak to that financially. Like, were you already very structured in budgeting, or did that actually prompt both of you to become very structured in your budgeting and the being very conscious of your spending and that type of thing?
I would say we were pretty structured before, but we were very structured during that time.
Right.
It certainly makes you think because it was a drastic change for us. So pretty structured, I think, anyway, but certainly during that time and after has been much more intentional. And that's the thing that I would tell people about going back to school and getting a career or a career change. Maybe it's the federal government will give you as much money as you want, or the loan servicers that are backed by the federal government will give you as many student loans as you want. You can go get any degree that you might want through that, but that's just one of those things you just have to be really careful about. It was not a on a whim decision for me just to go back to school. It was years, literally, of planning and deciding to do it, and then preparing, but all the while, maybe we're not going to do it. We're going to prepare, and then it got down to it. So yes, we're going to do it. So, that's just the thing I try to tell people. Really be careful because I came straight out of law school, never having worked in the legal field. trying to get a job. If I'd had substantial amounts of student loans, it would have been difficult with a wife and 2 children and a third one on the way, coming in as a brand new employee for somebody.
Get the job, continue to live, pay the loans back, all the things.
Yeah, you
Wow.
have to do all that, but you can do it. People can do. That's what I do want people to know, that I always had this idea. Or early on, I had these ideas that certain things may not be attainable for me. I would think about lawyers. Oh man, those people are super smart. I don't know about, and I think we all get into that sometimes.
Right.
But I really just want people to know that if you want to do it, get after it and do it. It's there, especially I feel like in today's society. Being responsible, being on time, being committed to your employer, those things, you can separate yourself
Yeah.
quickly, just with those just basic things. Nothing about a degree or not a degree, just those basic principles that have carried people through the years, of just being responsible, and taking ownership of mistakes, and not blaming other people for
Right.
them, can really get you a long way for sure.
That's exactly right. That's great advice.
Yes.
Anything else to add, Janet? Is there anything else you want to ask
Just
Elliot?
know why do you picked him? It's
Well,
very
I feel
clear.
like I know, and I feel like his story got abbreviated. Of course, I've been listening to these stories for 15 years, so
that's right.
But he has a few colorful ones. We'll save those for off the
okay.
camera too, probably.
Well, that was very interesting and
Yeah.
and a great story. And you obviously, like I said, very disciplined, determined, and
He is.
that's what it takes.
I
It
appreciate
does.
y'all allowing me to come for sure. This has been very
Well,
good.
you've got a great
Very good.
story.
Thank
He
you.
does. He does.
really
and that's
do.
what we wanted to do. Whenever Stacy first let us know that the bank wanted to start this podcast, Janet and I were like, oh my goodness.
Do we have to
well,
talk the whole time?
what are we talking about the whole time? And so when this topic came up, it's such a hot topic, in our world today, but we were like, okay, how are we going to put this into banking? We've got to put some banking in there
Right.
too. So
Right.
I think you gave some great tips just from your point of view. And like you said, everybody's story is different. Not everybody's going to have the same opportunity.
That's
Not
right.
everybody's going to have the same support. So it's just educating yourself to know what your options are and what's right for you. And if waiting 2 years and saving, and then that confirmation with you for your story, you received that scholarship, everything happens for a reason. All those things
Right.
go together
And
to
timing.
work for your
Timing
timing.
played
That's
a big
right.
part
It did,
in
and,
what
and
you
there-
accomplished.
A
and-
friend of mine really gave me some, and it was so simple, but really good advice or really good thought to think about. I was really concerned about how long that 3 years was going to be, because I was not going to be working. I had children,
Yes.
and I can remember exactly where I was, exactly what I was doing when I talked to this gentleman. He's still a good friend today. I said, I don't know that I can do this. 3 years, that's a long time. He said, Elliot, how fast did the last 3 years go by? And I thought about that, and I was like, it seems like yesterday. He said, I'm 100% confident the next 3 will be just that quick when you're done with it. And I was like, well, that certainly, puts it in a better perspective for me.
Perspective,
And that was one of those things right there at the end where we were deciding whether or not we were going to go. Just that thought that, 2 years, 3 years, while it seems like a really long time goes by so fast.
It really does.
It does.
And if there's things that people want to do, if they dedicate themselves to it, they can get it accomplished. And
Was this the same man that
no,
talked to you about?
No, it was a different one.
Okay. You had some good
I've been really
people along the
Some good
way.
people.
I've been really fortunate
Yes.
to have a good group of close friends that have been,
Supporters
they-
and
there's this thought that you will be the average of the 5 people that you surround yourself with.
Yes.
So it's very important who you surround yourself with.
Totally
and
agree.
people who are positive. It's really easy to be negative.
It is.
It
Like
is.
it's probably the easiest thing you can do is to find
right.
something
That's
that's not
true.
going right or complain about. I would just that'd be a thing. Surround yourself with people that are positive.
Positive, yes.
Not overboard. Not
Positivity
not running
breeds
through
success. I've said that a couple
Absolutely.
times in a few meetings we've had, staff meetings, and it's just a real short statement, but it's such a true statement. And
It
but
is.
you do have to remind people a lot of that, and so
For
I
sure.
think your story is a great reminder of that. I feel like that's all the time we have for today. So I'm not sure what's coming up for the next episode. We may or may not have a visitor. I'm not sure yet.
Okay.
So we'll be looking forward to that. Hey, you guys. Thanks for watching our Century Bank podcast. Be sure you like and subscribe to get all our upcoming episodes.